Last night's CAC meeting was jammed with lots of discussion of important issues. We hadn't met for 2 months. First, we wish to once again express our strong support for the strategic selection of the Anne Ashley parking structure to add 375 spaces to the downtown parking supply. We also want to congratulate the Downtown Development Authority on nearing completion of its work on restructuring South University, as well as the planning phase of major changes in the North 5th and Detroit Street intersection. As stakeholders, the Citizen Advisory Council members are pleased to play a part in these important downtown improvements, and we look forward to providing our input in future plans for East and West Europe. Last night, we also reaffirmed our commitment to continue working with the core group, the development group, and city and community leaders and agencies to make the library block project the best it can be. We believe that improvements are always possible, and we intend to participate in the process of making that happen. Much of last night's CAC discussion related to the Citizen Advisory Council vision of a future downtown neighborhood. And I say that using a broad expression, the downtown neighborhood, and the way in which downtown and near downtown areas might fit into that vision. This brought us to the DDA's current Ann Arbor circulator, as well as interesting fixed routes and feasibility study. In August, majorities on the Ann Arbor Planning Commission, as well as the Zoning Board of Appeals, voted, I think I better wipe my nose.
We'll give you an extra 30 seconds.
Good, thank you. As well as the Zoning Board of Appeals voted to move the $146 million, 620 residential unit development, some of them permanently affordable, on 1140 Broadway to the City Council for consideration. This followed Morningside developments addressing a variety of issues and concerns expressed at public hearings. City Council may vote on this, we think, as early as October. Many downtown and near downtown residents used to frequent that particular site when it was a popular Kroger store. I think I mentioned before that we had our own little carts that we stole from the Kroger store. We used them to go back and forth, as did other people in the area. It's now a contaminated 6.4 acre property surrounded by a chain link fence, vacant for over a decade since the previously approved project by another developer failed to be built. As the planning staff report recognized, and I quote them here, the proposed development is in harmony with walkability and transit orientation. The site is located in close proximity to the major employment centers of the University of Michigan Health System and our city's central business district. To top it off, the site is also within walking distance or a short bicycle ride to more than a dozen parks and recreation opportunities, some of them the most beautiful locations in the city of Ann Arbor. And the site will benefit, we feel, from several alternatives to vehicular transportation, including bicycling and bike sharing programs. One bike space for each particular unit is provided in the 620 unit building. The city bus, of course, AATA, U of M Blue buses, commuter rail, Amtrak, whether its station is in Depot or Fuller, it has the same sort of connection. And of course, the major way of getting around, walking. People are going to love living in this particular location. I think part of that's going to be because they're so close to the downtown. Which brings me back to the current Ann Arbor Circulator feasibility study being undertaken by the Ann Arbor Downtown Development Authority. We all remember the link, which ultimately was ended because of cost and lack of ridership. Some of us hope that in the process of developing possible routes and times for a new circulator, the 1140 Broadway project will be considered as a possible stop, along with stops like the Blake Transit Center, the 04th Ward, Carytown, perhaps a new railroad depot along the way. And I'll just simply end by saying eventually, we hope to see signs in the downtown, giving direction signs, giving direction to the Cascades, Argo Pond, the Canoe Livery, the Border to Border Trail, Island Park, Riverside Park, all within walking distance of the downtown. And bicycle routes also beyond that to Gallup Park and beyond. But this is a part of a larger vision that talks about the nature of downtown as including the downtown neighborhood in a larger sense in which we can go there, they can come here to take advantage of whatever it is that's offered, and very often not need to even car. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Just for the record, we gave you an extra minute.
I thought you did, thank you. I needed it.
And I'd like to point out that the statute of limitations on petty theft is probably expired, so I think you're safe in admitting your crimes for the shopping.
No.
Oh, yeah,
Already.
That's okay, because everyone. Well, I guess it's okay then.
All right, number 4 on our agenda, do we have any DDA members' communications? Hearing none. Susan, Executive Director Communications? None. We need to approve the July and August meeting minutes. Can I have a motion to do that, please? John?
Second.
Joan? Any discussion about the minutes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Minutes are approved. Subcommittee reports, Finance Committee.
I would like to move the following resolution. Since it was second on the agenda, the resolution to segregate parking funds to enable the future construction of additions to the public parking systems or alternative transportation infrastructure.
Second.
John Split, seconds. Anybody like to discuss that resolution? Any discussion there?
So just to clarify, we did this last year, and this is doing it again this year, correct?
For the same amount.
For the same amount. There's a question to myself or myself.
Did you answer yourself?
I answered myself. Thanks.
All right, all those in favor of this resolution say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Resolution passes.
The second one on the agenda is I'd like to move the following resolution. I guess I can't say that word today. To construct additional floors to the Ann Ashley parking structure, co-sponsored with the operations.
Second.
John Split would like to second that.
So the,
Sorry, discussion?
I want to do it. Do you want to talk a little bit about it? It's a pretty meaty resolution. The key issues are there are several things in this, but one of the things that we will continue to talk about, this is to move this conversation forward. We've been talking about it and talking about it. And so there are several steps that have to happen before completion, but I would like to get it moving forward. There are lots of things that still need to be considered. You know, the length of the bond that would be involved, the total number of spaces, and there are several issues that the board will have an opportunity to weigh on as we go forward. This simply moves it forward.
Was Tom Crawford at the Finance Committee meeting, and did he talk about bond availability, for lack of better?
Sure.
Yeah, we have a number of different options for bonds, I believe.
But he felt favorable about the idea of bonding.
John?
I just want to let folks know that due to the fact that my firm looked at studies for the Ann Ashley on behalf of the county and so forth, I'm going to abstain from voting on this resolution. And just as a point of information for folks, I think last time for these sorts of things, whether you recuse yourself for a conflict or you abstain, Susan clarified for me that abstaining works just fine. Okay.
Any further discussion about this resolution?
I have some concerns about it, because even though it's being framed as a way of moving it forward, it does say that we have come to a consensus that says this is what we want to do. And maybe I'm wrong, but my sense is that we haven't reached that consensus at this point. There's so many factors involved, and I understand if we're going to develop, it's not like, oh, we decide today and we have a parking structure tomorrow. So sort of part of this is to say this will happen by a certain point. But nonetheless, it is saying in one way or another that we're committing to this is how we want it to proceed. We don't know what's happening with core. One of the reasons we're more concerned right now is that that will take several hundred spaces, 300 or so spaces out of the system, which is about what we're talking about adding. So if that doesn't move forward, that's would be an issue there. Also, continue to try and emphasize various alternative transportation options as ways of ameliorating it. Interestingly, I looked back at the last time we built a structure, which was the library lane. And I guess I should preface this by saying that, when we certainly have made decisions in the past several years that involved millions of dollars. But our process, I don't feel like we've gone through the same process to reach a consensus. And that's my concern. If we were going to do it, I would want to see a sort of corresponding commitment to alternative transportation. Interestingly, this was proposed at the library lane as well. Sandy Smith, so Channel Sandy, had proposed an amendment that said basically we were already looking at a bunch of alternative options, alternative transportation options. Interesting that many of them have come to fruition, the things that she listed at that point. So it's not just an exercise, it's something that actually would help us move forward on those things. We're going to be talking later today about bike share programs. We're going to be talking at least a little bit. We don't have anything solid to put forward yet about a circulator, but we'll be talking about that. So I would like to propose an amendment. Let me see if I can find that now. It's basically just working this out, so we'll see how rough this comes out. But it's taking Sandy's amendment of 2000, what year is this? 2008. Yeah, in fact, September 3rd, 2008, so it's almost the anniversary. Adding a whereas that it is also recognized that the DDA encourages alternative transportation choices, including funding Go Passes, funding the Get Downtown program, funding bike alternatives such as the bike house, bike parking, and future bike transit lanes, as well as shifting the organization of the downtown parking system to a demand management system. And then adding a resolved, and I haven't edited that one completely. The DDA shall work to bolster its many current alternative transportation initiatives in the coming fiscal year by providing an additional $200,000 to pursue such goals. I think I'll just leave it at that. That's what I'm going to propose.
So that's your proposed amendment. Do we have support for the amendment?
No.
Hearing none. Do we have to vote then on the non-support?
No, not if it's not supported.
Any further discussion about the Finance Committee's proposed resolution, Jill?
Yeah, I think, first of all, with regard to alternative transportation, that actually we are doing a lot of that already with looking at the circulator and in fact, kind of in conjunction, if we add more parking at Ann Ashley, it may make the circulator more relevant in terms of moving people from something that's kind of on one corner of the district to somewhere else. So that really could happen, and those things will go on. So I think it's in spirit. It's all there already. And I think it needs to be pointed out that we have been talking and thinking about this for a long time, even before the core development project came up, because Ann Ashley is our biggest parking structure for government employees, city and county workers who are there. And so that's been a constant demand. And even though we are working with those entities to try to have them use alternative transportation, we're not there yet. We also are going to be losing additional parking because of what's now known as the tree line, formerly known as the Greenway, where there will be at least a couple of big lots that will be taken out of commission for good reason. And so they will be losing parking there also. But also because the only reason that we as a DDA really do parking is as part of our economic development mission. And so I think we have to look at all these parking projects as whether it does fit in with the economic development mission. And there's so much development now that's going on at that corner, pointing off that way where Ann Ashley is. I think that this will stimulate additional development. For example, looking at the North Main corridor, which creeps up every now and then, and there was a committee and a study done there, and there will be more. I think that having more parking at Ann Ashley could encourage further a little bit more at the North Main. So I see it as, of course, we're always reluctant to put in more storage for cars when we don't even know 20 years from now if there will be cars running around our downtown or not, or certainly might not be people behind their wheels. But it's at our retreat we did voice some reluctance about building more parking. But again, this is one we've been talking about for a long time because it is a low-hanging fruit and somewhat easy to add on to. But I think it also fits in our economic development mission. So I think we should go ahead and move forward with it. That's that.
Any further discussion, John?
I'm also in favor of moving forward with this. I don't know if other people around the table feel like it still requires a bit more discussion at the committee level. I would be fine with delaying it for a month or two, or a month if that's the feeling around the table.
That's kind of where I'm at. I think we're missing some board members here, and it's the biggest project we've done in a long time. And I think that we talked about it at the retreat, but we talked about a lot of things at the retreat, and I think and we're coming off of vacation, so to speak. So I mean, it's not where my head's been. I know there was finance committee meeting. So I would be in support of delaying it for one more month.
I would like to move that we postpone this till our next board meeting, and then also would like to throw out, I'll wait for somebody to second it.
Support.
And then suggest that perhaps operations or finance be the place to do that next month, and that maybe staff will send out a request to see when most of us are available.
Yeah.
Even if we have to do something special, but one of those two meetings, if we can get as many board members to show up and hash through this a little bit more, I think that would be beneficial.
The other thing, so I said support.
Yes.
And the other thing I think is that since I've been on board, which is not long, this would be the first project we've bonded, or with the intent of bonding. And so even before we talked about it and we discussed it, and we never had to do it. Am I right, Susan? Since I've been on, yeah. So even just understanding the mechanics of that, the timing of that. I mean, just there's obviously big differences between choosing 10 versus 30.
Sure.
If we choose 30, then it seems like the annual income will offset the bond payment.
There's taxable and non-taxable.
And there's taxable and non-taxable. So I think that talking through, I don't have enough experience with bonding, and I know a lot of you guys around the table do. So I think this is the first time it's been really like this is how we're going to do it. We're not paying for this all in one go.
So are you saying postpone it in order to have a meeting in between the next board meeting to discuss the details?
Correct, for people who may not be comfortable with their knowledge of the details at this point.
I'm one such person, so I would love another meeting.
Okay, so I think we're at a point in the discussion where we've got support to move the resolution to the September board. I think we need to vote on that. So,
But also I want
October.
October.
The October.
October board, sorry.
And then,
This is September.
I don't know if now's the right time, but there are a couple of things to fix in the resolution.
Well, I think
Let's move it.
We have to
Let's
go
do
on
the
to
vote.
postponement.
I think I just do that.
So all those in favor of moving this resolution to the October board, say aye.
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 Nays? Okay.
Abstain just to.
One
Stay
abstention,
clean.
John Boyd. There are a couple of typos
I don't think we have to worry about it since it's.
since we're moving it. Okay,
So.
thank you.
The fiscal year 2017 audit, Joe's assembled materials for the auditors. They began their work this week. We share the same auditors as the city. And we did our typical, when the finance meeting where we reviewed the expense listing and all the other stuff, so everything looked good. The next finance committee meeting is Tuesday, September 26th at 1 p.m.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the update from the operations committee. John and Keith.
And I guess I start. First, I'd like to move the following resolution, the resolution to provide a grant for Ann Arbor bike share, which is, starts at page 20 with lots of information moving forward after that through page 29.
Marie.
Support.
Support. Yeah.
And this was, the Operations Committee does recommend approval. A little history, this was started by the CEC, sure I get that right, Clean Energy Coalition, which continues to operate it. It's in partnership with the RIDE UM in the city. In its earliest days, we provided some money as well at the beginning. There was some feeling at the time that it was largely a university project and stopped funding it. However, it turns out that about 64% of the rides start within the DDA district. So they are having a funding crunch and came to us to see if we could help them out. It would be in line with our mission and our development plan. As I said, actually about 64, just under 64% come from within the DDA. It does deal with a lot of that first mile, last mile transportation issues, and whether somebody whether they come down by public transit or by car. Once they get here, they can use something like the bike share program to move around. So that's the gist.
So this is a $20,000 grant from the DDA to support the bike share program, and the resolution reads that the grant money would be coming from fiscal year 2018 parking funds. So,
My question is then, will they ask for this every year, or is there some kind of plan that they won't need it, or are they going to do something different?
Do you want to handle that?
Yeah, I'll field it. The program has been up and running now for a couple of years. What we're looking to do is to provide the grant to allow for a dialogue about what the next phase looks like. As to whether or not there'll be ongoing requests, I don't know. This doesn't obligate us to say yes if there was another request. Where the program is an interesting place. It's got some maturity to it, but I think it's still sized fairly small. So there's not enough bike share stations, we know that, but how to plan for it, how it operationally will look going forward. I think there needs to be some dialogue between the partners to really talk about the bigger questions. And at some point, if there is a request, certainly the DDA would be given the chance to say yay or nay, but this doesn't obligate you to any
Is there
future funding.
a plan for that dialogue?
There's a dialogue that has already started. The outcome isn't clear, but we would like the opportunity to at least continue it with enough funding behind it so that the bike share is still operational so people in the community can continue to use it.
One thing that was talked about at committee is that there's no private funding going into the bike share right now, and I think that I know for a fact that there's willingness to do that or interest in doing that. And I think that probably because the university was providing money and there wasn't a need for the Clean Energy Coalition or the bike share group to go out and seek those private dollars, because they're maybe a little bit harder to get. They just haven't done that. So part of what I had suggested at operations was that one of the DDA's roles in providing this money is to help them, put them in touch with the private partners, or at least take a look at the methods they're using to reach out, or lack thereof, to private monies, so that we don't become an ongoing part of the revenue stream.
And there are hundreds of these across the nation. There's certainly models we can look at to see, how what other funding is happening.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's something that needs to keep going. I was just curious about if you guys did, it's like they have 2016 numbers through August. were they not able to get 2016? It looks like the checkouts are, like their projections are really low, or their actuals are really compared to projected. And I'm just curious as to, did they just need to revise their model?
And there are updated numbers. One of the things that's great about bike share is every time you rent it, there's a record of it. It just speaks to the fact I don't have those specific, because we're not an active partner. I don't have the current data. I could very well get that data for you. And you can see where we are. Generally, I think, and I've got Chris Simmons here, I think generally the numbers are fairly consistent last 2 years. We haven't really grown much.
We become an active partner if we grant them the money, however, and you would think that the financial reporting would be pretty instantaneous, yes?
Yeah, again, Clean Energy Coalition's done a great job providing data as requested. So the fault is really more on my side not having it. And again, we're not an active participant or partner in the program at this point.
And is it, is the university just not contributing as much, or are they not contributing at all anymore?
The university remains the largest contributor to
Okay,
this.
so it's they're still a partner as well.
Very much so.
Oh, okay.
Okay, all those in favor?
Oh, sorry, one other question. Did this go through finance from a budgetary standpoint? I know it's only 20,000, but it was something we talked about.
I think we
We
did that.
brought to operations committee that there are sufficient dollars within the parking grant amount. So this is within what is already been budgeted.
Okay. Ideally, I think, I mean, it's not a large amount, so I'm not, comparatively, so I'm not concerned about it, but I think one of the things we were working on was that any ask gets a finance stamp of approval, where it's like someone's looking at it, line item is coming from here, go okay, and like a budget. Any monetary ask goes through finance, so I think that's something that we should try to keep, stick with, is have that be our procedure as opposed to, coming up, because whether this is 20, but what if it was 60, and it's like, we had gotten disciplined with it. I think we should keep it up.
You want to table it? We'll do it next
No, I mean, I'm not worried about
And
it.
I think her point is that it is in the budget, it just wasn't specified what it was for.
It just
In other words,
budgeted
there
for-
is grant money in the
Yeah,
budget.
there's
There's
grant
the
money.
grant money in the
Unspecified.
budget. Yeah,
Just
right.
unspecified.
Understood, but it's
So what word
budgeted,
are we
but
specifying?
right. No, I get that, but I think we talked about like not changing the budget, but like as grants were applied for, they would be vetted through finance, because like I don't know what other grants are in the pipeline. There were other things that we talked about when it came to just when grants that were not our.
We get grant requests from a lot of different sources, and
Right.
what Rishi's trying to do is have a gatekeeper for the
Yeah,
grant
I mean,
requests.
I was like, yeah, I'm not. I mean, and I'm not. It's not like me. I'm saying finance committee per se. John.
John? You're not the chair anymore.
Man, I'm really ruining this meeting.
I just like to say, I know the money, I know the money's there, but I agree with Rishi in that I like to see everything approved through finance as a stamp of approval for
Sure.
the board.
Okay.
And just a point of clarification, the challenge though is that everything's waiting a month. So if things come through ops, you just so ops knows, using the phraseology of gatekeeper, you're not going to be able to bring something forward until it goes back to finance. So just to weigh that, just as you think it through, it's your choice how you want to do it.
I
But
would be
unless finance is the last meeting of the month,
Right.
you will wait a month. So your call.
I'm comfortable if Joe, if there's money appropriated in the budget for it, and as long as Joe is aware of it, and now if Joe feels like it falls outside of whatever was in the budget or in the plan, then it would be tabled and brought to the finance committee.
I don't think that's what Rishi's asking. I think Rishi's trying to get more clarity on grant requests in general, because it just seems like everybody out in the community thinks, oh, the DDA will give us money. And that is a perception, and a lot of people come ask for money, and so I think what Rishi was saying was that if you have one stop, and if the finance committee is the right place for it, I don't have a problem with it waiting a week. You're asking for free money. So you have to wait another month for your free money, then it's still free money.
And this isn't like, I'm not like, this isn't like, oh, I just came up with this idea. I mean, this is something where we talked about it, and to the point of this might wait a month, we actually talked about this, and that, okay, this is our timeline, and so if you needed some money in less than a month, then this was not the right way to do it, because we needed to be very conscious about how that was going out, because we felt like we just didn't have like unlimited discretionary dollars to hand out. So to the point of, it will delay it a month, the answer is maybe that's right. That's the good thing. So anyway, long story, I didn't mean to delay that. I actually thought like it's already gone through finance, and like, yeah, finance has got the stamp of approval on it, but I think that's my point, because it's not budgeted. This specific ask is not budgeted. We didn't know this was coming, whatever, a month or 2 months ago or whatever it was.
So then let me clarify that we're talking about grants, because I wouldn't want it to be that if we have budgeted, let's say, for our project, every time they're going to spend money, it doesn't happen.
Yes, correct.
So we're just talking about the grant.
I did, unplanned asks for money.
We use discretionary grants that we do budget for, but Rishi wants specifics before the money gets approved specifically.
Yeah, and it's not just me. I think this was like, we had gone down this path,
Right.
and I just don't want to see us, we have gone down, we talked about it, we kind of said like, look, this is finance committee, this is the responsibility, the role it'll take. Then I just don't want us to go back on it, because it's a smaller dollar amount versus a bigger dollar amount, or whatever. It's bikes, which we all are on board with, versus my go-kart idea that I haven't pitched to you guys yet, or whatever.
Okay, do we have any other discussion? John, sorry.
I'm over here raising my hand.
Oh, I didn't see it, sorry.
I might suggest that finance take that up as a policy question. If we want something specific in terms of what we do need to get approval on, don't get approval on, that's a fine topic of conversation.
Okay. Any further discussion on this resolution for the $20,000 bike share grant? Because I think we're at a point where we need to vote on it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Resolution passes.
All right. Next one is mine as well, but there's no resolution because at this point we only have draft. This is regarding the circulator feasibility study and the status of that. We did get a fairly detailed presentation from them, but it was a draft presentation, so that because we had a whole bunch of questions, and there were still questions that were formulated for them to look at before they had the final. There were some interesting things about it. We've talked about benchmarks before on this, and had 8, I think, benchmarks total of benchmark cities. They're all are college towns with high walk scores and polycentric downtowns, much like our 4 ones. But the interesting thing is that even though everyone always talks about it in terms of economic development and how to make it a more palatable place, nobody had benchmarks of their own. There simply is not anything out there which says here is how you can look at this and what its economic result is in terms of the downtown. In other words, it ends up really being qualitative indicators. The qualitative indicators, rather, are just things like whether, is there increased pedestrian activity? Is there an experience in place? Does it extend the walkability of an already walkable town? And those are difficult qualitative things. We did get actually 3 recommended route configurations: a base route, a Saturday morning route, and an evening route. They talked about a lot of different ways of implementing it, and that's probably where the biggest questions come, because at the high end it was an extremely expensive proposition. At the high end, they're talking about $2.4 million just to invest in equipment, and then the operating costs, which range anywhere from $60 to $120 an hour, would add up to 1.5 to 1.7 million a year, which obviously is beyond what we're looking at. But there were also alternatives talked about in terms of partnering with the ride. One of the suggestions is that perhaps this supplants Route 8, and so that there might be funding. Is it still called 8? I don't remember.
Is it still Route 8 and it's to Amtrak?
No, it's, shoot, what is it, like 12? What is it now?
One of the 20s.
20s, okay, yes. What used to be Route 8, down to the depot. So, there are a lot of possibilities that we still have to look at there. They actually did a fair amount of digging in to try and figure out how to evaluate the potential economic outcomes in terms of what you're able to do with increased retail spending, property value appreciation, but it's hard to really correlate those things. So you have to look at benefits about branding, workforce and student customers and their ability to circulate. I think most importantly, for one of the important ones for us, the park once possibilities, especially if we do add parking in one corner of the downtown. How does that affect the rest? So they're looking to complete the study this month, but we are looking at possibilities of partnering with the ride, especially, as I said, the ride to Amtrak, and also to look at the possibility of, is there a way to pilot this, which of course is something we've done a lot of times, is pilot a project to see if, without diving all the way in. In other words, can we try this with existing equipment? Can we try it on not 3 routes, but perhaps 1 route, and perhaps not 7 days a week? So there are a lot of things we're still looking at, but thought I would fill everyone in where we are now. Questions about it at this point? I'm sure we'll be talking more at Pops again. Thank you.
My turn. Solar panel installation feasibility analysis. We had a request that we look at the possibilities of adding solar panels to parking facilities. There were 2 analyses that looked at the feasibility of adding those panels to our parking facilities. City staff provided info about the city's climate action plan, and that plan specifically asked that solar be added to city-owned property. The committee is asking, or is asked to develop, for the city folks to develop a solar project on the 4th and Catherine surface structure, which I think would be a small installation. But the cost there seemed at least to be reasonable compared to the cost of some other options. The monthly parking report is on page 33 to 41. If anybody has any questions, I'm sure either Joe or Jade can answer them. Seeing none. General Operations Republic provided us with a couple of reports last month. One about improving their maintenance processes. They're inventorying spare parts that are often used. They have quite a rigorous prevention maintenance program, and that has resulted, they've also provided us a report that has resulted in a big drop in downtime at the parking lanes. So all of the work that they're doing there seems to be serving its purpose well. New parking equipment at 4th and William. Staff reported that an RFP was issued. We got 3 responses, and a staff committee, including U of M and Republic staff, singled out 2 of those proposals for further review, and a recommendation is anticipated to be brought to the September Operations Committee meeting. And that meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, September 27th at 11 a.m.
Thanks, John. Any questions, discussion? Okay, Capital Improvements Committee, John Mowat.
Thank you. South University got wrapped up. Construction's completed. Time for the student move-in last week, and they're still working on landscaping and punch list items. But I think Amber is, as of now, are they going to get that finished up in the next week or so? Is that where we are? Great. Obviously, if you get a moment, try to have a look, see what you think. It would be great for those of you who don't typically come to the Capital Improvements Committee meetings. Please feel free to give feedback through the committee, since this is our first project out of the gate. It would be good if there are things to be learned for future ones.
I just wanted to comment. I know that there were some difficulties down there, unexpected, and to get that done on time, I think is a very big accomplishment. So
yeah, and I want to give
kudos to all those involved. Yeah.
Liz, Amber, I think Liz sort of did the heavy lifting on that. So I think it's another testament of good coordination with the city, and how that staff is just doing a terrific job. Staff from both the city and the DDA are doing a wonderful job making these things happen. 5th in Detroit, last month we gained the Historic District Commission approval for the project. So that's one more hurdle that we've left over. And right now, utility design and construction documents are underway, and the plan is to bid the project late fall, early winter. Needless to say, time to take a deep breath in the bidding environment we have these days. But obviously, we made some adjustments to the project and to the budget. So we'll see how that comes out. Huron Street, the project team met with MDOT last week, and lo and behold, there seemed to be some very good openness to looking at signal timing, looking at how the pedestrian islands might work, pedestrian crossings, even the notion of off-peak parking, those sorts of things. So I was very glad to hear that our comrades at MDOT, I think, are looking to be flexible, and they're thinking for streets going through an urban core. And that bodes well, as our design team and our staff come up with kind of creative ideas of how Huron can help mate the two north and south sides of town. That's a good piece of news.
Are you sure they were talking to MDOT?
Well, yes. Oh, okay. Yes. Yes. Actually, for what it's worth, I was at that Shared Use Mobility Conference last fall in Chicago, and I ended up talking to a woman from MDOT who was looking at the creative ideas that are coming along. So I think that like all institutions, cultures, it change over time, and what's always difficult, it happens in our own city and everywhere else. There's a whole process to go through, and different people in approval chains. So depending on who you hit, when and where and how, but we'll see. The other things that have happened are there were public pop-ups held, and there's been ongoing conversations with property owners, the Y, the county, other folks. If anyone, again, hears of any entities along Huron that might have key interest in this project, please put them in touch with staff. And at our next meeting too, we'll start getting feedback about the results from those pop-ups and those conversations, as well as the traffic studies that have been going on. So I think things will start to take form that will help to launch the design of the project. And then lastly, First in Ashley and William, bundled together, DDA released an RFQ. We received 4 responses. I participated with staff in reviewing those, and we'll be bringing some thoughts and recommendations to our next committee meeting. Saw the responses. I was glad to see we got 4 responses. It's always a concern. People are busy right now and so forth, so I think that was a very positive thing, and as we get things launched for the next projects.
And the RFQ was for planning and study?
Yes, yes, and one thing just to keep in mind too, these projects are a little different than our other streetscape projects. Needless to say, the traffic component is critical. There's a rail crossing for the first Ashley piece. The potential William project, a protected bike lane, is a unique animal unto itself. Not all firms have done that kind of work. So this one's maybe a little different than the others too in terms of how you think about it, evaluate it, and so it was interesting to see the teams that were put together and what expertise was brought in from the outside, because again, these are somewhat specialty situations. Teams needed to be a little more creative in who all they brought in. But I think we got 4 solid responses and enough to react to, and we'll share more at our next committee meeting. If there aren't any other questions, the next meeting is September 20th at 11 a.m.
Thanks, John. Partnerships Committee, Joe?
Yes, well, we did not meet in July or August, so our next meeting is Wednesday, September 13th at 9 a.m. And I just wanted to mention a little bit in conjunction with this, that the day before that, September 12th, is the city is convening an economic summit that's going to be at Palmer Commons. And that's going to run from 9 to 4, I think it's scheduled to be. So that should be pretty interesting, and I think it would be worthwhile for anybody from DDA who has an ability or opportunity to get there at least for an hour or two to see what the city's idea might be for their economic summit.
Could I request that staff send out a reminder to the board that that's taking place? That would help me. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay. The executive committee met right before the board meeting today. Marie, myself, Joan, Susan, and Rishi just went over the agenda, and Darren, sorry.
But appreciation was.
We went over the agenda. We talked about our Labor Day weekends and got prepped for the meeting. I don't think there was any more substance than that at that meeting. We have some new business. I have a resolution. Here there's a resolution thanking an outgoing board member. Can I get a motion for that resolution? Okay.
So moved.
Okay. Thank you. Marie and Darren. I'm going to read this. Bear with me. We have a resolution thanking Al McWilliams. Whereas Al McWilliams has contributed time, energy, and passion to the Ann Arbor Downtown Development Authority since 2013. Whereas Al McWilliams contributed important and perceptive insights into DDA discussions, conveying an experienced awareness of such matters as the importance of pedestrian safety, bicycling in an urban environment, and the value of public transit. Where Al McWilliams skillfully utilized social media and one-on-one conversations as a way to increase community awareness of and support for the DDA as it works toward the goal of a vibrant, walkable, and interesting downtown that is uniquely Ann Arbor. Whereas Al McWilliams' disarming humor and dexterous intelligence has been appreciated by all who have had the pleasure of working with him at the DDA. Resolved, the Ann Arbor Downtown Development Authority extends its great thanks and best wishes to Al McWilliams for his contributions to the downtown and indeed to the community as a whole through his work on the Ann Arbor Downtown Development Authority. Someone needs to tell me what dexterous intelligence means.
I was going to suggest commending by taking those out.
I'm sure I like the idea of being disarmed. I'm not sure what that's all about.
Thank you to Al. Any other new business? We're going to need to vote on this resolution. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Yeah, where is she? Come on.
I was gonna abstain, but
The resolution passes. Do we have any other new business? Do we have other audience participation here with us today? Hearing none, I would like someone to make a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
The meeting is adjourned.